They were aged between 6 and 10. 3 young Palestinian boys who set off for school as usual on a Monday morning, but they never made it. Gunmen sprayed bullets into their car.
Their violent deaths in Gaza are a sign of the escalating tension between rival political factions. The boy's father is a senior Palestinian intelligence officer, loyal to President Mahmoud Abbas. Almost immediately, there were angry demonstrations in the streets of Gaza. Here's Noor Ode.
Linda got her 3 boys ready for school early in the morning, and as their car was driving away, she watched them get shot dead. It's an experience no mother can prepare for, even someone like Linda, who feared her husband could fall victim to the ongoing political violence. The children, however, were using a car separate from their father's after he was targeted less than 3 years ago.
As soon as they left their house, there was gunfire. Some people said there were 6 cars, others said 10. If they were to assassinate a really important personality, they wouldn't have used such force. I saw the boys' school bags on the ground. I thought that one of them were dead, because I saw the rear windscreen had been smashed. I stayed and sent one of my colleagues to the hospital to see what was going on, because they had prevented my husband's bodyguards entering. Every time I called someone, they told me they don't know much, but to have faith in God. I felt there was something wrong, but I expected that only one of the boys had been killed, not all 3.
Salam, Ahmad and Osama were shot dead along with their driver. The children's bodyguard was also seriously injured, along with 4 other children who were passing by at the time of the shooting. Linda's home was full of mourners shortly after the deadly attack. Clearly distraught and angered, they had come to offer their condolences and share their shock. Lydia, the victim's 6-year-old cousin, miraculously survived the attack. She was inside the targeted car when bullets started raining in. "We all ducked," she told me. "I was hurt by the glass, but they all died." The children's father, Baha al-Balushi, is a major general in the intelligence services, an apparatus that answers directly to President Mahmoud Abbas. He is one of several senior intelligence officers targeted in the past 3 years in a series of attacks investigated but never concluded. The incident has shocked regular people and politicians alike. President Mahmoud Abbas condemned the attack, calling it ugly and inhumane. He has asked for a swift investigation that would conclude, unlike its predecessors, with those responsible brought to justice. Meanwhile, Chief Palestinian negotiator Saeb Ariqat warned that this attack could spark a civil war in the Palestinian street.
This must stop. The Interior Minister and all involved, all responsible, must exert maximum effort in order to stop this chaos, lawlessness, bring those murderers to justice.
Well, Noor joins us live now from Gaza. We're saying here these killings of the 3 young boys takes violence to a new level. Is that how it's being seen there?
It certainly is. Actually, the youngest of these brothers was barely 4 years old, and the killing of these 3 young boys is seen in Gaza as a new episode, as a new high to the ongoing violence in the Palestinian street, where political rivalries have translated into political assassinations and violent attacks over the past few months.
This is not the first time that gunmen have tried to kill Major General Balushi. I take it he was the target. People thought he was inside the car.
He was not inside the car, and in fact, the mother has told us that he has not used this car in months. This car was basically for the exclusive use of the children, and this measure was taken by the parents after Major General Balushi was targeted in an earlier attack. So this car was known to have been the car for the children, the car that takes these children to and from school and to wherever else they needed to go. They were shot at as almost a stone's throw away from their home. So witnesses and the family members tell us that whoever shot at these children knew that they were inside the car, because they must have seen them coming out of the home and getting in the car.
This will also push Hamas and Fatah further apart, Noor?
Probably so. There have been a lot of accusations flying in. Members of the Legislative Council from Fatah have called on President Mahmoud Abbas to call on the Interior Minister of the Hamas-led government, Mr. Said Siam, to resign, accusing him of not doing his job properly, of not fulfilling his duties of keeping law and order, especially in light of the fact that yesterday his convoy was shot at, and shortly afterwards members of the executive force that he created announced that they caught the perpetrators of that attack, while attacks like the ones that happened today have not been brought to justice till now.
Noor Ode in Gaza, thanks to you.
A day after hundreds of thousands of people rallied against the Lebanese government in central Beirut, there's a new development in the push for a diplomatic solution. The Sudanese presidential advisor Mustafa Osman Ismail, who's been trying to broker a deal, has held talks with leaders of both political camps. He met the Lebanese Prime Minister Fouad Siniora first, pushing a 7-point plan put forward by the Arab League. That plan includes a change to the makeup of the Lebanese cabinet.
After nearly a quarter of a century of severed ties, Syria and Iraq's diplomatic relations have been officially restored. The Iraqi flag has not flown in Damascus since 1982, when Baghdad was accused by the Syrian government of inciting riots. And the raising of the Syrian flag in Baghdad is seen as a sign that both sides want to restore normal relations. The reopening of the embassies was promised during a landmark visit by the Syrian foreign minister to Iraq last month.
In Chile, hundreds of mourners are filing past the coffin of the former dictator Augusto Pinochet. But while it looks like his body is lying in state, the Chilean government insists Pinochet won't be buried with the pomp due a national leader.
There will be no official day of mourning and no state funeral. Pinochet remains accused of dozens of human rights abuses, and the families of his victims say his death cheated them of justice. From the Chilean capital, Santiago, Al Jazeera's Lucia Newman reports.
Inside Chile's military academy, the body of the nation's once all-powerful military dictator lies in wake. His former comrades in arms, his family and friends paying a last tribute to General Augusto Pinochet. At all Chile's military installations, the flag flies at half-mast. Outside the academy, thousands of die-hard supporters line up to pay their respects.
He saved us from being invaded by the Cubans. He is our hero. This would be a communist country if it weren't for my general.
For these people, Pinochet could do no wrong. What you don't see here are the tens of thousands of Chileans who were tortured or whose loved ones were executed or disappeared during General Augusto Pinochet's 17-year dictatorship. One of those torture victims was Chile's current president, Michelle Bachelet, whose father, an Air Force general, was murdered by the regime. That's only one of the reasons why Chile's government refuses to grant Pinochet a state funeral, arguing his presidency was illegal and undemocratic. He will, however, receive full military honors during his funeral Tuesday, a decision that has outraged some government parliamentarians, like Ramon Farias.
He
doesn't deserve any honors or flags at half-mast. He was being tried for crimes against humanity when he died. His family should just bury him in private, full stop, he says. Tempers are running high. This Pinochet supporter became violent after construction workers yelled out anti-Pinochet slogans from this building. Overnight, scores of Pinochet opponents were arrested amid violent demonstrations downtown and in poor Santiago neighborhoods. For those who say they feel cheated because he died without ever going to prison, there could be one consolation. An ironic coincidence, perhaps, but General Pinochet died on December the 10th, International Human Rights Day. Lucia Newman, Al Jazeera, Santiago, Chile.
And some news just in. The Israeli Prime Minister, Ehud Olmert, has appeared to admit his country has nuclear weapons. Speaking on the eve of a visit to Germany to a German broadcaster, he was being interviewed about Iran's nuclear ambitions and went on to list a number of countries which do have nuclear weapons. In that list, he included Israel. It's unclear whether or not his remarks were a slip of the tongue, but Israel has always refused to confirm it does possess nuclear weapons.
Talks on North Korea's nuclear program are expected to resume next week after a year's delay. Negotiations stalled last year after North Korea walked out, angry at US-imposed sanctions. It's hoped this new round of talks will persuade Pyongyang to give up its weapons in exchange for security guarantees. The announcement follows a nuclear test by North Korea in October.